We can see the evidences from discovery of wheat and barley from Mehrgarh, which is in Pakistan today, but earlier on the Indian subcontinent was considered as a part of whole India. Hello everyone, how are you all? My name is Mohit and I will help you decode history optional for UPSC examination. In this lecture series, I will be telling you about some important topics that are very important when we talk about in paper 1 of history optional, that is ancient history. And in ancient history itself, we would be talking about Neolithic age. Okay, first of all, as we move forward, before moving forward, some information regarding me, my name and my experience with this examination. Now, I will talk about that from what section of syllabus I would be picking an important topic that we would be covering in this brief lecture. Okay. If we see the syllabus of history optional, paper 1, we have prehistory and protohistory. Now, you might wonder, what is this prehistory and protohistory? So overall history is divided into 3 parts, or we can say trifurcated into 3 parts. That is prehistory, protohistory and history. Prehistory is that period which has no written records, while protohistory is that period in the history which has the written record, but those written records are not yet deciphered. And as I speak, and the second that passes becomes history in itself. So that period from which we have historical records, as well as we can decipher them, we have read them, we have deciphered that is known as history. Now, in the prehistory itself, we have certain periods, like Paleolithic, which is also known as Stone Age. Lithic means stone and Paleo means old. Old Stone Age, Middle Stone Age and New Stone Age. That is Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic. In today's lecture, our focus would be on specifically Neolithic Age. I am choosing this topic because we are more close to this part of history, because it was that period where we actually began the agriculture and the food production habits. And we see that still we are dependent on food via agriculture. So this is a part of history that I can relate with you people, and you can also relate it with the whole history. So we would be covering Neolithic in today's class. Okay, fine. Now, before moving forward, I will take you back to the history and tell you about the Stone Age. Like how in Stone Age, we have 3 periods: Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic. Paleo means old, Meso means middle, a transition between the Paleolithic age and the Neolithic age. Meso means Middle Stone Age and the Neo means New Stone Age. Now, why these are trifurcated into 3 parts? Because in the earlier history, we had very less advanced tools. We were dependent on hunting and gathering for food. We were not aware about the agriculture practices. We were not aware about the domestication of animals. We started to know about domestication of animals in the Mesolithic period. Then, and as we moved towards the Neolithic period, we got to know about the agriculture. And also in this, the tools helped us and also the environment helped us to shape our society. So today, we would be covering Neolithic period. Now, you would be analyzing that this is a history optional video. But this video is for all students, because history is such a syllabus, such a subject where the overlapping on the prelims part, mains part and the optional part is maximum. Because if you see, these are the things you study in the prelims, in the mains as well. And now we have to move a step forward when we talk about the optional syllabus. I will show you how. Let's move forward. Now, this Neolithic age was earlier defined by some scholars, like the term Neolithic was introduced by Sir John Lubbock. Now, why did he term this period as Neolithic? Because this was a period when people skillfully made the tools, and the tools were polished stone tools. Earlier in the Paleolithic period, Mesolithic period, they were dependent on very big tools. Means they were using the stones in their most raw format as the tools. When they evolutionized, they realized that these tools must be molded as per the needs of the task. So they made these tools very sharp, small, that is microlith. So the term neo means new. New Stone Age is given by Sir John Lubbock to describe how the society of this period was advancing, be it in tools, be it in technology, and the most important technology during that period was stone tools. So that is important. But if we describe that who was the person who termed Neolithic Age as Neolithic Revolution, it was V. Gordon Childe. V. Gordon Childe was the person who described this Neolithic Age as Neolithic Revolution. Why? Because he saw that the advancement that the Neolithic Age people were experiencing were very fast. Now they had advanced tools. They were knowing about growing crops. They knew about seasons. So that's why he termed this as Neolithic Revolution. The villages were self-sufficient and the food producing economy was delivering them the adequate material for their life and the lifestyle. Now it was Miles Burkitt who highlighted agriculture, domestication of animals and polished tools as the defining traits of Neolithic culture. So we see that how from the perspective of history optional, what extra we have to do in any topic. Like in Neolithic Age, we are talking about that who coined this term, why this period is known as Neolithic Revolution, and how the historians and the scholars are highlighting that what exactly marked this age as different from the earlier societies. These were polished tools, domestication of animals on large scale, and also providing the sufficient amount of agriculture products. Fine. So I hope you are clear with the origin of these terms and why it was known as Neolithic Revolution. We will now move forward and talk about that this was the period when we see beginning of agriculture in Neolithic and Chalcolithic period. Chalcolithic period means Chalco is copper, Lithic is stone. So copper stone age which overlapped and which also led Neolithic age in different regions of India. So agriculture began in this period. Now the Neolithic age and food production is very much important part because it was this period when we actually knew about growing different type of crops, and as you might have studied in the prelims preparation or in the mains preparation that Mehrgarh, Koldi Hawa, these were the first places in and around India where we find evidences of agriculture produced for the first time in and around our Indian subcontinent. We will be talking about that. Now, if we look at the important points that are explaining the food production in the Neolithic age, we must focus on that the Neolithic age succeeded the Mesolithic period and marked the onset of food production. There are different scholars who provide different theories about how from the age of Mesolithic period itself, the human were aiming to settle down. They wanted to settle down, and when they found such type of crops which can give them food products without the need of hunting and gathering or solely dependent on hunting and gathering, they started to settle down. And when they settled down and when they grew the crops, it was a need to grow the crops that you need to settle down at a place because the crops takes time to harvest and grow. Fine. So we saw that when we transition from the Mesolithic period to Neolithic period, a domestication of animals was prominent and also the agriculture production became most important economic activity of that period. Then the transformation or the transition was also in the period of Neolithic age in terms of tools they were using. As I told you earlier also, that the tools that we used in the Paleolithic and the Mesolithic era were very big tools. They were not sharp. But in the Neolithic period, these people realized that to do small tasks, you have to have small tools as well, which are sharper, which are also very precise in doing the task. So they made special types of tools which characterizes this era. For like grinding big things, they used the grinders. They flaked the stone tools to make it sharp. Fine. And also they used boring, like to create ring stones such like this, to keep their equipments. So they were aware about such technologies and the tools, their nature, their polished nature and their sharpness defines the characteristics of this era. Moving forward, what are the key features of this Neolithic stage? If at all, a question comes in the optional paper of history paper 1 that define or explain the characteristics of the Neolithic stage. So first you should mention that domestication of animals became more prominent. We see that domestication of animals to get the food produced out of them, be it milk, be it meat. So the domestication of animals was also a key feature of this age. Moving forward, technological advancement, as we talked about tools, stone polished tools, and also as of now, they were not aware about iron. They were just aware about the stone tools. So that is the most advanced technology that we see in that period. And using these stones, they were making different type of articles and ornaments. Also, population growth. When the population grows in an area, you need larger settlements. You cannot travel to long distances because now your family is large. You have to settle down at a place for some time, then only you can decide to move. So the population growth and the settlement patterns in this region, in this period of history, also determine the key features of Neolithic era. Moving forward, when we have the population growth, as I was talking about, we need to settle down. And this led to self-sufficient villages because now we have grown the crops, we are knowing about the agriculture production, and if we have produced the agriculture produce, so now we have to settle down, and the village system, the settlement system developed during the Neolithic period. Also, this was the period of invention, using the wheel for the transportation, controlling the fire, making art through pottery. So these inventions led to Neolithic age and how it differs from the previous age, Paleolithic or the Mesolithic age. So that is why these are the key features of the Neolithic age. I hope you are able to follow me. If any doubt, you can comment in this video so that I can cater to your doubts. Fine, let's move forward. Now, as I talked about that this period was onset of agriculture in India as well. We can see the evidences from discovery of wheat and barley from Mehrgarh, which is in Pakistan today, but earlier on the Indian subcontinent was considered as a part of whole India. So Mehrgarh and Pakistan, Mehrgarh, which is in Pakistan, wheat and barley evidence were collected from that place. If we talk about Koldi Hawa, that is in Uttar Pradesh, rice production was found from that area. So this period shows us that agriculture was also starting in the Indian subcontinent as well. Fine. And also, if you talk about the timeline of this period, the timeline of this period is around 8000 to 1000 BC. 8000, that is the 8th millennium BC, to 1000 BC. The timeline of Neolithic period is 8000 BC to 1000 BC. So this was that period when Neolithic age developed and we were able to grow different type of crops for sustainability as well as trading. I hope you get that. Now, when we have seen that the agriculture was started in the Neolithic period, but what were the reasons that led to the growth of agriculture? The catalysts that were responsible for the growth of agriculture in that Neolithic age. So we will talk about this. Reasons for the shift of lifestyle from hunting gathering to the agriculture thing. What was it? It was environmental and also technology. How environment? The Paleolithic period was all about Pleistocene era, and Pleistocene era is associated with Ice Age. Gradually, when the climate was moderate, we see many arid regions in the Holocene era. And during the Neolithic age, people find many places where they can grow crops. So that was the environmental factor which led to this transition from hunting gathering to agriculture produce. And also technology. Technology in the sense of tools that they were using. Now they had very sharp tools, very small tools, precise tools, accurate tools. By using these accurate tools, they were able to plow, to generate lands fit for cultivation, to plow the land, to sow the seed, and also do different sort of experiments with technology, and which helped them to grow different sort of crops. As we saw in Mehrgarh, we find wheat and barley, and in Koldi Hawa, that is in Uttar Pradesh, we find rice cultivation evidences. So environmental and technology, both together integrated, that helped to grow different sort of crops. Fine, I hope you get that. Now, what are the key theories? See, this is how our optional preparation is little bit different from normal preparation. In prelims and mains, you just talk about the various sites that are important in the Paleolithic, in the Mesolithic, as well as Neolithic. But here we are also talking about that which thinker, which scholar, which historian gave what theory. So first of all, it was V. Gordon Childe who talked about the environmental changes, that how during the Pleistocene era, when we saw huge amount of ice, we were not able to grow crops. We were sparsely living into different regions. But when in the Neolithic age, the climate got a little bit warmer, the planet got a little bit warmer, the arid regions developed, and we were able to grow crops into those areas. So this was said by V. Gordon Childe. But as we know, when there is a thesis, there is always an antithesis. Kya kehta hai antithesis? What do the antitheses say? There are different historians. What do they say? We have Robert J. Braidwood. He opposed the environmental theory of V. Gordon Childe. He said that environment alone could not be the factor of this revolution. There were nuclear zones of plants and animals which were rich in flora and fauna, which gave advancement to these people over other people living in different regions. So, the theory of Braidwood was about that not only the environmental factors but also the nuclear zones helped them to move forward in the Neolithic age by growing different types of crops. Moving forward, it was Lewis R. Binford who told that fine, environmental factors, good, but there are demographic stress also important for revolutionizing or evolving any civilization or any phase. He said that internal migration as well as external migration is responsible for Neolithic transition. How internal migration? That people were having conflict within their own societies. Some were killed, some were displaced from society, and also people came from outside which influenced, which gave new technologies and advancement to this era. And finally, we got Neolithic age. So his theory is about demographic stress. Means the population change is happening in that period which led to change of the period. But finally it was Kent Flannery who talked about that there could be a negative and positive feedbacks from the food production. Like once, like in childhood, you try a game. You don't know that game would give you satisfaction or the result that you want or not. You try that game, you do it wrong and you get hurt. You get some injury. And next time you realize that we don't have to indulge into this game. So similarly, this is a positive feedback or the negative feedback. You got the negative feedback from the game, so you decided that in future you won't be attempting that game. Similarly, while producing different type of crops, Neolithic period people would have experienced that the crop failed. This was a negative feedback. They did something extra. Now they got positive feedback from that because their crops were high yielding. They got the results desired from that crop. So the positive and the negative feedback gave them the knowledge, and these are the theories that you must write in your answers. If at all a question comes in your paper that what are the theories behind Neolithic age? Fine. Good to go. Now if we summarize that what was all about Neolithic age, so we must know that it was about tools, how the tools evolved. Moreover, it was about agriculture. The major thing which demarcate or differentiate it from the previous periods is the use of agriculture produce. Fine. Also the domestication of animals. The animals were domesticated for milk, for meat and also labor. Like to plow the agriculture field, they might be using some animals. And when they realized that some kind of animals are not hurting the normal people, not hurting the population, so they domesticated them. When they started to live with them, they realized that they can be utilized into different forms. Also, the settlement patterns we have seen that the village community developed. When people started to produce any crop, they are in a position that they had to settle down in a place for some time. So the village communities developed. Also, the innovations that we were talking about, be it pottery, a division of labor, like men were doing certain tasks, women were doing certain tasks. According to the age, older people were not going for hunting. Older people were indulged into the household activities or the craftsman activities. So these all things characterized or are the features of Neolithic era. Moving forward, we must also talk about the Neolithic cultures in different regions. Because as we today see that in different regions, we have different languages, different sort of food habits, we have different lifestyle. So in the Neolithic period itself, we can see that the variations towards the Indian subcontinent in different regions existed. How? In the northwestern period, in the northwestern region, this era was available in 7000 to 4000 BC. And we find the early farming like in Mehrgarh. We talk about northwestern area. In the northern area, that period existed and it was in its mature form in 2500 to 1500 BC. And we find different sort of examples from this, like Kashmir Valley, Burzholm, and also the Mesolithic antecedents were also found from that region. Similarly, when we move to central India, the time frame for this period is 4000 to 1200 BC. And here we find the Vindhyan outcrops, the Balan Valley sites present in state of Uttar Pradesh. Fine. And Mid-Ganga Valley, that is the eastern UP and Bihar, the site you might have heard about even in your prelims preparation, Chirand. Chirand is a site in Bihar and belongs to Neolithic era. That is how the bone tools and the plant cultivations evidences were found from this region. Similarly, if we go towards the southern region, or before the southern we see eastern region, Chota Nagpur Plateau, the area around the West Bengal and Odisha were visible in that period for plant cultivation. In the northeastern part, in the Assam state, we find a site, the Jauli Harding. That is a Neolithic site and very much important because we find tools without evidence of plant cultivation. This gives us an idea that how the regions were evolving at different phase, at different pace. The phases were different in different regions. Moreover, in the southern area, the regions or the sites like Halur, Maski, Payampalli, these are the sites of the southern India which gives us the feature of Neolithic era. Overlaps with the Chalcolithic era. So these are the regions that how different region existed during the same period with different phase of Neolithic era. We can see these sites through a map also. Like from north to south, east to west, different sites are visible here. We see different sites as Chaligai and Saraikhola towards the Pakistan-Afghanistan side, these regions. We see the Burzholm in Kashmir, Gul Muhammad Quetta in Pakistan, also Mehrgarh in Pakistan. These are the regions which are famous for Neolithic finds. The Chirand region in the eastern region of India, Bihar, the Jauli Harding in Assam, and Barudi in Odisha. Moreover, if we go to the southern region, Nagarjunakonda, Maski, Halur, Brahmagiri, and also Payampalli. Now this becomes a map work. If you are preparing for history optional, you might have seen that the first question of paper 1 talks about map. Now, in the map, they will give you a description. They will mark the city. They will mark the place. Like for example, they will mark the Chirand as one and they will give some description about it. And in the description, they will talk about the Neolithic site from where plant tool cultivation have been found. And you have to mark that area in your answer sheet and describe something about it. So this is the way, this is the right way to deal with the map work. Moving forward, now there are debates that does this Neolithic period should be categorized as a revolution or evolution? Was it a revolution or was it just a evolution? Different scholars have different perspectives. Why is it a revolution? Because in the Neolithic age, we see some distinct features that were not visible in the Paleolithic or Mesolithic era. How? We have heavy ground tools for grinding, for pecking, for boring. So the tools that we found in this era are ranging from microlith to very heavy ground tools, which were not visible into the earlier era. So this is important. Then when we have to talk about these things, the distinct features are talked about in the revolutionary era. Moreover, the transition from the Mesolithic to Neolithic was also very quick. People were adopting to different sort of techniques, like they were moving from hunting gathering to food production through agriculture. Now this transition is very drastic. Once you were hunting gathering and now you are settled down, you are dependent on agriculture for food produce. So this transition is very stark, very deep. So that's why it can be termed as revolution. Moreover, the technology, use of wheels as transport, controlling the fire, making art like pottery. So the technology was evolving. Now when the technology evolves, just like we talk about industrial revolution. Why is it called a revolution? Because in that period we saw new form of technology taking over the productions. Similarly, here also technology improvised, improved, and hence we can call it as a revolution. Fine. Now the concept of Neolithic revolution, as we talked it about earlier as well, it was given by V. Gordon Childe. V. Gordon Childe termed this as Neolithic period. Fine. And also, the major focus of these scholars was that there was a profound socio-economic transformation going on in this period. To highlight that, they term it as a Neolithic revolution. But is it so? The modern perspective talk about it differently. They say that this was a normal transformation or evolution gradual change and not a revolution. They have their own sort of discussions and debates. They were talking about that this change didn't happen over just few years. There was no war because in revolution, be it in any revolution, be it French Revolution, African Revolution, American Revolution, or Industrial Revolution, you see some kind of anomy. That is, anomy means a type of change, a type of conflict between the society. So that was not visible in that period. So they say that this was rather than a evolution and not a revolution. Now we have covered the Neolithic period from starting, and also we have discussed about that was it a revolution or a evolution. Now did we discuss this just like that? No. I have a reason for covering this topic in such a way because we have a previous year question from this topic. The preparation is very much apt only when we get the notes in such a way that we can tackle any question that is given to us. Imagine you go to a war, you know what weapons to carry, how many weapons to carry, but you don't know how to use those weapons. Then the XYZ amount of weapons, their quality doesn't matter if you don't know how to use it. So those notes are necessary which you know how to use them. So in these classes, our motive is to deliver you such lectures in such a way that your notes are integrated with the PYQs, previous year questions. Because in that case only you would be able to score 300 plus in your optionals. When you know that from which part of your notes, which question is being molded, and the beauty of history subject is that it is static. Once you have made a good notes, then you are free from all the worries and tension because now you just have to work on structures and also revise and recall every time you read the structures. Now we will see this question. The Neolithic Age represents a revolution due to significant changes that took place during this period. Examine. It was asked in 2023. So first of all, we know that we have to trifurcate our answer into three parts. IBC. Introduction, body and conclusion. In the introduction part, you can talk about that the Neolithic Age, its time period was about 10,000 to 2000 BC, which we almost see that the Neolithic Revolution timeline is 8000 to 1000 BC when we talk about agriculture production, onset of agriculture. And this Neolithic Revolution term was given by V. Gordon Childe in his book Man Makes Himself, which was written in 1936. Now this could be a very good introduction for your answer because you are specific. You have used a scholar to expand your knowledge, to define your term, and also their work in which they mentioned the work actually, in the term actually. Moreover, when we move to the body part, we first have to give arguments which support the question. Means the question says that the period is known as revolution. So first of all, give those arguments which suffice the demand of the question. And examine means you have to give counter arguments as well. And this was a 20 marker question. So first of all, we talk about that there was agriculture transition. In the regions like Mehrgarh and Koldi Hawa, we saw that we started to grow crops. Wheat, barley in Mehrgarh. In Koldi Hawa, we see rice cultivation. Then we move forward. We also see domestication of animals. That the animals like sheep, goat, camel, these were domesticated and hence it can be termed as revolution. Moving forward, we talk about permanent settlements. We saw that how the village communities developed, and in the Burj home, Kashmir, we see the pit dwellings, and also in Mehrgarh, where we see the mud brick houses. And our quest for the answer doesn't end here. We must also focus on the technological advancement, like how in Chirand region of Bihar, we find advanced tools. Moving forward, we find the pottery. Where the pottery was developed, technology was advanced, and the pottery was used for storage purposes. Social stratification means people were divided on the basis of their strength. The labor was divided on the basis of their strength, age. So this means social stratification was available, and this is available in the evidence from Turkey. So this gives us an idea that the revolution was happening in all spheres of life, be it political, be it social, be it technological wise, and so on. Also, the trade networks were developing. People were trading for stones like lapis lazuli. Like Indian people were moving to Afghanistan and Iran to grab these tools. Also, foundation for civilization was developed. Now, this period marked a foundation for further civilization development like IVC, Indus Valley Civilization, because from that region only, people started to gather together, live in a community, plan their lifestyle, and so on. Now, having seen that these things, we must focus on the counter arguments. Like, what counter arguments can we talk about? The evolutionary perspective, that this movement was not just a revolution. We must focus on the other part as well, that evolution theory. Because the transition was gradual. Scholars like Bruce Trigger talk about that this was evolution and there was no quick revolution to change this. We see that the evolution was gradual. Also, there were regional variations. Like in the southern India, we see different type of cultures. Also, there were continuation of foraging. Means people were still indulged into the agricultural practices. Like in Dajauli Harding, Assam, people were still nomadic hunters, nomadic gatherers. Also, technological overlap is seen. Like in Mesolithic, we find some similar tools that we find in Neolithic era as well. And lastly, we see absence of large-scale warfare. For any revolution to be named it as a revolution, we must have a large warfare, a large level of conflict. But we see that this was not visible, no evidence of this thing in Neolithic era. So we can say that in conclusion, that it could be abrupt like industrial revolution, but also like gradual like information technology evolution. Means it is both a sort of revolution and evolution in different sort of aspects. But saying it in extreme manner that it is only a revolution or it's only a evolution is wrong. So with this, we would come to end of this lecture. I hope you got an understanding of the subject, that why we covered Neolithic and why we covered Neolithic era in this manner. Because we are building the notes around the previous year questions, so that we get an understanding of the subject in deeper and also in a manner that we can cater the PYQs as well. So we have made this lecture series in this way so that you can earn and learn better insights on the history optional subject. So thank you very much. Take care. Keep watching. Jai Hind.